Who are the teams that can make it to Super Bowl 56? That is the question I'm going to be answering in today's video. And just real quickly, I'm sorry if I sound a little bit down. It's because I was sick a little earlier in the week, but I'm better now. So that's why I'm going to be recording this video. And let's get right into it real quickly before we do. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video for more content. The San Francisco 49ers, I believe, are a very interesting team this season. They were kind of at midseason, a frisky team, potentially a playoff team, but in recent weeks, they've really been turning it on. They've really gotten that offense going, and I think it all starts with this team with the offensive weapons. Eli Mitchell, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. 4 players that have been absolutely immense for the Niners this season and have really been the catalysts for turning around their season. Now, Eli Mitchell's missed some games, but when he's been on the field, he's been awesome, right? Brandon Ayuk, big, physical. He's really turned it on as of late. Been the player we thought he would be all season. Deebo Samuel and George Kittle have been 2 of the best weapons in the entire NFL this season. George Kittle's the best tight end in football. Deebo Samuel's one of the best overall players offensively, I would say, this season. The Niners have all sorts of weapons. They have offensive balance. The Niners have, they can run it pretty well. They can throw it pretty well. I'm looking through the stats right now. The 49ers passing offense, 13th in yards and 2nd in net yards per attempt. In rushing offense, they are 7th in yards and 17th in net yards per attempt. So they are they're a really balanced team in terms of their offense, right? Their run defense is also very good. Okay, so the 49ers run defense, they're 15th in yards, 12th in net yards per attempt, and 10th in first downs allowed. So the Niners run defense is a top 15 unit. And against in an NFC where the Cowboys like to run the ball and the Cardinals like to run the ball and the Packers like to run the ball, if you can shut down those run games and you can make those teams one-dimensional, you're giving yourself a good chance. You're giving yourself a better chance than you would if you had a bad run defense, right? And Kyle Shanahan is the last reason. Kyle Shanahan, I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan. Kyle Shanahan's an absolute offensive wizard, right? Kyle Shanahan, he schemes so many players open. He gets the best out of George Kittle, Eli Mitchell, Deebo Samuel, all those guys. He's so many different offensive schemes are based around Kyle Shanahan, and so many offensive coaches copy him week in, week out. He is the best offensive schemer for my money this in the NFL today. He's amazing at it. We saw him doing it in Atlanta. We've seen him do it in San Francisco, and we're seeing it again. Now, what are some of the flaws with the Niners? Why can't they? And I think there's 2 big reasons. Jimmy G, pass defense. So Jimmy G, let's start off with Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo is a player that really, for me, it has been underrated, I think, for the most part this season. But we saw in 2019 with a better team than he had to this season, him not be able to get it done in the Super Bowl. He missed that one throw he really needed to make. And that's the question. If the Niners are down, because it's a lot easier to play quarterback when you're up 21-3 at halftime and you've got the run game going, defenses are on their toes, and you've got all these different things going your way. Whereas if you're down, say 17-3, and you're having to throw, there's no run game anymore. Defenses are, putting more coverage on some of your top weapons. It's a lot harder to play quarterback that way. And that's what separates the elite guys from the good guys, right? Jimmy G's a good quarterback, but is he a Tom Brady? Is he an Aaron Rodgers? Right? Is he a Patrick Mahomes? Is he a Josh Allen? I don't know if he's that. I don't know if he's a Justin Herbert. I don't know if he can do that where if all else fails, Jimmy Garoppolo can win you a game. And if he's forced to win you a game, I don't know if the Niners can win a game. And that's what I think might be their undoing. Pass defense as well, 28th in completion percentage allowed and 26th in passer rating allowed. So that, I think, could be a flaw because you look at some of the quarterbacks in the NFC, they can all play. Kyler Murray can throw the ball. Matt Stafford can really throw the ball. Brady, Rodgers, Dak Prescott, right? All those guys, they're going to have to go through three of them to get to the Super Bowl. That pass defense is going to have to shape up. Now they can get to the quarterback. They can get to the quarterback. But if they're facing an offensive line like the Cowboys or the Buccaneers or the Rams, and they can stop that pass rush, and that pass defense is forced to kind of cover, that could potentially be a bad matchup for them. So the Niners, I think they're a very dangerous team, but some of those flaws may prevent them from getting to the Super Bowl. The Arizona Cardinals would be the next team that I think can, if everything goes their way, and I think that's a big thing. I think they need everything to go their way. But if everything does go their way, I do think the Cardinals can make the Super Bowl. I do. I think it's possible. Starts off with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is the key to the offense. Kyler Murray is the best player on the team. Kyler Murray is a superstar. He's taken off this season. He's taken off. I mean, 2019, he was good. 2020, he was good. This year, he's been elite. This year, we've seen less mistakes in the pass game. They're still there. They're still there. We've seen that the last couple of weeks. But for the most part, Kyler Murray's been excellent as a passer this season and as a runner. And he's going to be a handful for any sort of defense to try and face. Right? They've got offensive balance. They are top 9 in passing and rushing first downs this season offensively. That's impressive. It shows they can run the football, they can throw the football. There's no great secondary in the NFC, so they can throw on a lot of teams, right? And especially with DeAndre Hopkins back, and their run offense is, outside of Tampa Bay, the run defenses in this conference aren't great. And the Niners, I guess, but outside of that, they're not great. You can run on Dallas, you can run on Green Bay, you can run on those teams. So offensive balance, that's a big part of it. They've got defensive swagger. They fly around the field and they're fast. They remind me of the Falcons defenses from the years where they were really like 2016, 2017 area where, they're fast. They got fast linebackers. They got some good pass rushers. Chandler Jones is there. Other guys are there as well. They've got a talented defense. They play with a lot of swagger, and that's what's made them one of the better ones in the league this season. And they're road warriors. And it's looking like they're going to have to go on the road at least once this playoffs. They're 7-1 on the road this season. They've beaten Tennessee. They've beaten the Rams. They've beaten the Niners on the road. That's impressive. They've gotten wins on the road. They've been able to, beat some really good teams on the road. And if they're going to have to go on the road on the playoffs, I don't think they'll be intimidated because, for one, they don't have a great home field. So that's part of it. So I don't think they're not going to care whether they're at home or they're on the road. Whereas for a team like we've seen the Packers, they are way better at home than they are on the road. The Bucs even, I think, are much better at home offensively and defensively than they are on the road. So yeah, the Cardinals, there's reasons for them for sure, but there's also several reasons why they can't. The big two, Inexperience and Kliff Kingsbury. Kingsbury's offense for me, I'm not a huge fan of it. It's fine, but oftentimes it gets figured out late in seasons, and we've kind of started to see that this season, and that could be a big thing because they're going to be facing Bulls in the playoffs. I really like Joe Barry and what he's done with the Green Bay Packers this season. I really like what Dan Quinn's done with the Dallas Cowboys this season. I think Raheem Morris has done an underrated job in LA. Even D'Amico Ryans. So they're going to have to face some creative and smart defensive coordinators, and Kliff's going to have to out-scheme them and outthink them. And we just saw McVay a couple of weeks ago completely outcoached him. You saw LaFleur completely outcoach him. That's a flaw, in my opinion, is Kliff Kingsbury. He's better than everyone thought he was at the start of the season when we didn't think he was an NFL head coach. He clearly was, but is he a Super Bowl level head coach? We don't know. And they aren't experienced. The Cardinals haven't made the playoffs since 2015. That was a completely different team. And just to give you kind of an insight of how different the NFL was in 2015, Peyton Manning won the Super Bowl, and Cam Newton was the MVP of the league. That's how long ago 2015 was. I know 6 years ago doesn't seem like such a long time for some people, but it was a hell of a long time ago in football. So the Cardinals don't have any sort of experience in this spot, and they're going to be facing experienced teams. Sean McVay's been here a bunch of times. The Packers with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers lives in the playoffs. Tom Brady has made his career in the playoffs, right? So they're going to be facing teams that are used to this kind of spotlight. Even Kyle Shanahan, the Niners have made the Super Bowl just 2 seasons ago now. They're going to be facing teams that know the playoffs, know the routine, know everything like that, and they're not going to know it. And so I think that's a flaw with the Cardinals' lack of experience. So the Cardinals, a lot of good things about them, but there's some more negative reasons creeping up over these last few weeks. The Dallas Cowboys are the next team that I'm going to be talking about as the Super Bowl team, and there's good reasons for Dallas. Like roster-wise, I think this has been one of the better teams in football. Their offensive balance. They're 6th in passing yards, they're 11th in passing net yards per attempt, they're 6th in rushing yards, 7th in rushing yards net yards per attempt. Offensive balance, they can throw it, they can run it. Dak Prescott last couple of weeks struggling, but we know when he's on and they have their receivers, they're an explosive passing game. They can stretch you out and go downfield, go vertical. Their run attack with Pollard when he's healthy, Zeke, when they've got a good offensive line, and I'm about to get to that, but they've got a good run attack. So they can run it and they can throw it. They've got offensive balance, and that's always important come playoff time. It keeps defenses on their toes, and it gives defenses issues. Their offensive line is the best in football, arguably. It's them or the Bucs for me. Their offensive line's 5th in pass blocking grade, 2nd in run blocking grade, 2nd in adjusted line yards, 7th in adjusted sack rate. They're elite across the board. Pass blocking, run blocking, awesome. Tyron Smith, when he's in the lineup, especially, that offensive line's insane. That's it. It's a great offensive line. The defense, I think, is underrated. I think it's 1st in takeaways. They are 8th in first downs allowed. They're 3rd in pressures, 5th in pressure percentage. That defense can get to the quarterback. They can take the ball away. They're not great in terms of giving up yards on the ground or through the air, but they can take the ball away and they can get to the quarterback. And when you can do that, they've got a couple studs, Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs, Curse as well. I like in their secondary. They've got playmakers on that defensive side of the ball, and I really think that helps their defense come playoff time. You need playmakers, and they have it. The motivation for this team's also there. Every week the Dallas Cowboys and the media are either criticized or praised, but when they lose, they get killed. They get killed, and they hear it. And I do think this team has motivation because they don't have a ton of experience, and they hear it in the media now because that's what happens when Dallas loses. They get killed. So I think for Dallas right now, motivation is a reason why they potentially could win the Super Bowl. The 2 reasons why they couldn't would be inconsistency in coaching. Coaching, McCarthy. I like Kellen Moore. I like Dan Quinn. I'm not a big Mike McCarthy fan. I never have been. I thought he got carried by Aaron Rodgers for all those years in Green Bay. And I think we've seen how much better LaFleur has been because They're now winning consistently more than they were with McCarthy with Rodgers. And he's made some extremely questionable decisions this season at times on fourth down, settling for field goals, stuff like that. Inconsistency with this team on both sides of the ball as well. So the Cowboys, for the longest time this season, their offense was awesome. It was 2016 Falcons like, and their defense was, opportunistic, but it could get taken advantage of. Now their defense is becoming dominant almost, but their offense is falling off a cliff. Like, I have no idea what team is going to show up, what type of team is going to show up, and that's a big thing in the playoffs. Some teams I know what they're like. I know the Green Bay Packers. I know what they're going to give me every single week of the game. Every single week, they're going to give me what they're going to give me. I know what most weeks a team like the Niners are going to give me, right? I have no clue what this Cowboys team is going to be. And I don't know if that's a very good thing come playoff time. So that's the flaws of the Dallas Cowboys. They are there, but the reasons for this team potentially being a contender are certainly there. For the Rams to win the Super Bowl, it all starts with, I would say, their pass offense, right? Matt Stafford, big, strong arm, can throw it deep. He's accurate. He's improved mentally, I would say. And they've got a cast of receivers. Cooper Kupp, best receiver in football this season. Hands down. Odell Beckham Jr. has been excellent since he's joined the Rams. Van Jefferson's been a very good player for them. Tyler Higbee, when he gets back from COVID, he's very good. That they can pass the ball as well as anybody in the NFL. Seriously, just look at the statistics. Their passing offense is currently 4th in yards, 2nd in touchdowns, 1st in net yards per attempt, 5th in first downs. They can pass the football extremely, extremely, extremely well. And that's going to give everybody in the playoffs that they play issues, and that's what gives them a chance to win. Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey is the second reason. These two, I mean, there's not a better top two defensively that any team in the NFL has. Aaron Donald's the best defensive player in the sport, arguably the best player in the sport, and Jalen Ramsey is arguably the best corner still in football, I would say, this season. You can argue. He hasn't been as good as he was last year, but he's still been very good. They together, and the defense has other players as well, like Von Miller. They've got a lot of talented guys on defense, and I think the Rams, Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey are part of it, but their defense as a whole, I do think it has the talent to be able to be a Super Bowl winning defense. It doesn't have to dominate games like it did last season, but they have the talent to be good enough to be a Super Bowl winning defense. Right? Their offensive line is extremely underrated. I've gone through this before in the Discord. They have the best pass blocking grade for an offensive line in the NFL. They're 13th in run blocking grade. They're 6th in adjusted line yards and 6th in adjusted sack rate. Their offensive line is good. It is very good. Their interiors play better than I thought it would. The tackles have been good this season. Their offensive line it can prevent guys from getting to the quarterback. They've had a couple struggles in primetime games, the Titans game, the Rams, or not the Titans, or not the Rams game, the Niners game, the Packers game. But other than that, their offensive line's basically been perfect this season. Sean McVay, he is a very good coach, man. 5 years now, playoffs, 5 years, 5 years. This guy's awesome. I mean, with how the NFL always changes, always adapts, to always be able to consistently win games, in my opinion, is impressive. And that's what McVay's been able to do. He's won 9 games for 5 straight years. This is 5th straight 9+ win season. They're probably going to win the division, in my opinion. So that would be his 3rd division title in 5 years. That's impressive. This division's always tough, and he's owned it for the last half decade. Really, 3 and 5 years is kind of owning it. So Shout out to the Rams. They've done really well this season, I think, all things considered, and inserting a new quarterback. But there is a reason why they can't. There are a couple of reasons. Defensive inconsistency. Already kind of talked about that a little bit. Their defense is inconsistent, I believe. They have had good games, but they've had bad games where they've been just torn apart. I think back to that Niners game. That's the big one, the Packers game as well. And Stafford's playoff history is poor. He's in the 3 playoff games he's been in, he's not played very well. He's not played very well. Right? So Matthew Stafford, his career, when you look at the stats versus how he played in the playoffs. So Stafford, in his career, he is completing about 63% of his passes, and his passer rating's about 91, his yards per attempt about 7.3. Right? His completion percentage and yards per attempt actually go up, but his passer rating drops 5. And he's progressively gotten worse. He had a good game against the Saints in his first playoff game. Had a so-so game against against Dallas, in his second playoff game. And in his third playoff game, he was bad against Seattle. So, yeah, and those Lions teams weren't actually that bad. I mean, they weren't great, but they were capable teams. It wasn't as bad as some of the teams he had in other seasons with them. So Stafford hasn't had much playoff success. He's going to be going up against guys like Brady and Rodgers. We've seen him do well against those guys in individual one-off regular season games, but in an actual playoff game, could he be able to outplay those guys? We don't really know that yet. And so that's kind of a flaw with the Rams. But I'm rising on the Rams, and I really think this could be a dangerous team come playoff time. The Green Bay Packers can absolutely win the Super Bowl, and that's because of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is, in my opinion, the best quarterback in football. I think he should be the MVP. You can, if you want to say Tom Brady should. I'm not going to fight you at all, but I think since week 2, Rodgers has clearly been the best player at the quarterback position, and I think he's deserving of MVP. And do I think he'll win it? Probably not, but I think he's deserving of it. And I think Aaron Rodgers has been outstanding this season, and he's an outstanding football player. Just what he's able to do, he's extremely accurate, he's extremely smart. He's kind of almost mastered the quarterback position, very similar to Brady in terms of he doesn't look often as deep as, an arm talent like Aaron Rodgers could look at this point in his career, or used to look. Part of that is his arm strength's declined a bit, but part of that is he's gotten smarter when it comes to playing the position, and I think that's really helped Aaron Rodgers, and it's really, kind of almost extended his career, whereas we've seen huge arm talents go out early in their careers. That's not happening to Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers can still play at a very high level. He's the best guy. Again, I think he's clearly the best guy in football right now. At least, since week 2. Yeah, is he clearly the best quarterback in the NFL? I don't think so, but you can argue that for sure. He's absolutely capable of winning a Super Bowl. We've seen it before. We've seen him come very close. We saw it last year nearly happen. There's no reason to really doubt Aaron Rodgers or his ability. This defense has gotten better. The Packers, their defense, it's 10th in points allowed, it's 8th in yards allowed, it's 12th in yards per play, it's 8th in takeaways, it's 6th in passing net yards per attempt. That's very good. And the Packers' defense has improved. And when you've got the best quarterback in football with a good defense, that is always a good recipe for success. Think of those mid 2010s Patriots teams from 2014 to 2018. They had good defenses. They had a good quarterback, a really good quarterback. Right? Like, they didn't have a bunch of weapons. Right? They had Edelman and they had Gronk, and that was enough. But Gronk was hurt in 2016. He was not the same guy in 2018. Edelman's good, and this is gonna piss off Mitch when he watches this, but Edelman is not a Julio or an AB or someone like that. Edelman's not a complete game breaker, right? But the Patriots were still successful because they had a great quarterback and then a good defense, and that's what Green Bay has. Their defense has playmakers. Preston Smith has gotten back to his best. Rashawn Gary's been really good. Kenny Clark's been good, right? Devondre Campbell's been an absolute stud this season at linebacker. All pro, in my opinion. Their safety duo is excellent. Rasul Douglas has been a huge find for them at corner. Eric Stokes, same thing. Jair Alexander, and this is getting to players coming back. David Bakhtiari, Jair Alexander, Zadarius Smith. 3 players that they've missed this season. 3 huge playmakers for this team over the last 2 years. David Bakhtiari was the best offensive lineman in football last year by every single statistic. He hasn't been there at all this season. Their offensive line's been fine. It hasn't been great. It hasn't been nearly as good as last year, but it's been fine. Once he comes back, this offensive line goes back to being good, right? Goes from solid to good. Jair Alexander, the secondary's been good without him. He makes it an elite unit, I think. And Zadarius Smith gives this pass rush another dimension. Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary have filled in the need, but he comes in, he gives them more depth at the edge position. These are all Pro Bowl guys. Like, Zadarius is a Pro Bowl guy. Alexander is an All-Pro. Bakhtiari's multiple-time All-Pro. Like, these are awesome players that they've been missing, and they've just kind of gotten through fine without them. They're 11-3. They're the number 1 seed in the NFL. This team's awesome without these guys. So imagine how good they're going to be with these guys. And then the one last run argument. So Aaron Rodgers, last year of his contract, right? Davante Adams, last year of his contract. There's that. It could potentially be, Rodgers goes, Adams goes, coming off of the Super Bowl. And it would be a great storybook ending to their kind of run. They've been doing this whole last dance thing with the Packers this season. That's what the theme was entering the year. And so far, they've looked a lot like that 98 Chicago Bulls team in the regular season. Now, the 98 Bulls, of course, they followed it up with the title. But yeah, will the Packers do that? We don't know yet, but they've got a shot for sure. Now, why couldn't they? What could prevent that from happening? It's the secondary weapons outside of Davante Adams, and it's the run defense. So, the secondary weapons, right? Davante Adams has made up 33% of the Packers' passing yards this season. That's insane. That's one guy. He makes up a third of your passing production. That's insane. All right? And then, number 1, it shows how damn good Davante Adams is, best receiver in football. But it also shows how kind of weak their other guys are. Like, they don't have Robert Tonyan, and their tight end's kind of a huge question mark. Lewis is the guy right now. Ben DeGuara at times. Valdez Scantling's been out, in and out. He's been kind of hit or miss. Lazard's hit or miss. Equinemius St. Brown's hit or miss. Randall Cobb's out. They don't have a second guy, really. This team is either Davante Adams or they run the football with Jones and Dillon. That's kind of the offense. And that's kind of easy to game plan against, right? Try and double Davante Adams, take him out of the game, or put your best corner on him, potentially, if you have a Jalen Ramsey or someone like that, Trayvon Diggs. And then stop the run. And that's what a team like the Bucs was able to do last year. Davante Adams still had some success against Tampa last year, and their offense did. But the Bucs' defense last year, they shut down that Packers offense when they needed to because they got a sustained pass rush. They shut down the run, doubled Adams, made the other guys try and beat them, and they couldn't in either game last year against the Bucs. That's what Todd Bowles did, and he kind of had a bit of a hold on that Matt LaFleur offense that had just marched through everybody easily last season. The run defense is the other flaw on this team, I feel. The Packers' run defense is 25th in net yards per attempt. I think it's better than it's been the last couple of years. I do. But I don't think it's as good as other top. Like, I don't think it's the Bucks run defense or the Saints run defense or the Niners run defense or anything like that. They're not that. They can be ran on, especially by a team like the Cowboys, the Niners. Those could be two scary matchups potentially. So the Packers, they could absolutely win the Super Bowl. They may even be my pick once the playoffs begin, but there are reasons to doubt them as well. The defending champion, Super Bowl champion, Tampa Bay Buccaneers are certainly right in the epicenter of Super Bowl conversations, even with some of the losses they've suffered this season, both on and off the field. Why is that? Well, Tom Brady. I mean, this could be the only reason this could be the only thing I even say. Tom Brady. I've seen him do it over and 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 over again. And we're only to like age 36, Tom Brady. Like, you could go another 5 years. Tom Brady, he's inevitable. I mean, he is maybe even still the best quarterback in football. You could argue it for sure. And he is 44 years old, right? Like today. He's 44 years old. It's insane what this guy has done this season. He has 36 touchdowns, 4,400 yards. He's on pace for over 5,000 yards. Over around 44 touchdowns, passer rating 100. Insanity from this man. Insanity. He's amazing, and just betting against him is stupid because he's proven you wrong so many times. He just wins playoff games, 30 playoff wins. 30 playoff wins is what Tom Brady has achieved. Insane. 34 actually. Looking at it right now, 34 playoff wins. So Tom Brady is he's inevitable almost. And this offense is inevitable when they're not playing the Saints. I mean, their offense is first in points, second in yards, second in yards per play, second in first downs, first in passing yards, first in passing touchdowns, eighth in passing net yards per attempt, first in passing first downs, second in pass blocking grade, first in adjusted line yards, first in adjusted sack rate. They have the best offensive line in football, I think. They're still going to have Mike Evans in the playoffs. They still have Gronk. They'll still have Leonard Fournette. They'll get Antonio Brown back. Their weapons will be fine. They'll just have a couple weeks to work with these guys, Tyler Johnson, Scotty Miller, some of these guys that have underperformed, but they'll have time to work with these guys without Chris Godwin, which hurts, but they'll have some time to gain some chemistry with these guys. They still have the best offense in football, for my money. I still don't think I'd take an offense above them. Their defense is not as good as it was last year, but it's opportunistic. They kept them in the game against the Saints, and they are sixth in takeaways. They could still get to the quarterback. They could still stop the run, still take the ball away. If you can do that, you can win come playoff time. They still have that ability of turning it on like they did in last year's playoffs. When last year in last year's playoffs, they shut down the Saints. They really kind of won that game against New Orleans. When they needed to make plays, they made plays. They shut down the Chiefs completely, and they made plays against Green Bay when they needed to. So, their defense was fine in the playoffs. If they can do that again, they'll be fine. They're the defending champions. We've seen Super Bowl champions repeat. We saw it with Tom Brady do it before. We could see it again. They're the defending champions. They automatically have, that experience, that built-in confidence more than any other team in football from having Brady and being champs. Same roster, too. Why they can't? Injuries. Again, no Levante David. No Chris Godwin. Right? Other guys are banged up. This team's been injured all season, so it's hard to gauge fully how great this team is, even though on paper they look great. So that's part of why somewhat lack of chemistry is part of why they potentially won't win the Super Bowl. And Bruce Arians is the other reason why they won't win the Super Bowl. Bruce Arians is so overrated as a head coach. This guy, he's had a good career, but he's not an elite head coach. He's not an elite head coach. This guy, every time they play the Saints, he gets outcoached by Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen has this guy on strings. Dennis Allen makes this guy look like a damn toddler at times. Like, Dennis Allen owns this guy. If they were to face the Saints in round 1, I genuinely think they could lose because Bruce Arians doesn't know what the hell he's doing when he's playing the Saints. And in other games as well, Arians doesn't do anything. Leftwich runs the offense. Brady really runs the offense, but Leftwich runs the offense. Bulls completely runs the defense. What does Arians do? What does Bruce Arians do? He doesn't do anything, and that's potentially a reason why they can't win the Super Bowl. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a lot of reasons to be confident, but there's certainly reasons to doubt as well.